Hey y'all, it's Agu here, and today we're going to be doing a reaction to Ben Shapiro. I saw this video blow up in the last 4 or 5 days. It's Ben Shapiro and Malcolm Nance on critical race theory. Now, conservatives have basically lost their absolute collective mind on critical race theory. And a lot of the legislation that has been passed is not even about critical race theory, it's about getting rid of normal history about the racism in America. They want to get rid of those things, right? Like MLK quotes in Texas. They want to ban talking about racism, really, a lot of it in Texas and Florida. Not really critical race theory, but just racism in general. So basically Republicans going full fascist, not really surprised there, and trying to edit history in a way that suits them. So this should be interesting. I've seen Vosh make a video on it. I haven't watched it, so don't worry. I will watch it after this so that I know his perspective on it as well. So yeah, let's just get into it. Nothing more to say. Okay.
Hard news. I hate it. We're having such a good time, and now we're gonna fight. And now
I'm not a big fan of Bill Maher's show, anyways.
But it's okay. But I got to talk about that muzzle laws. There's these laws that have been introduced in a number of states to not talk about critical race theory. Now, critical race theory, I must say, to begin with, I hadn't heard the term probably a year ago. Now I hear it every day. I think Americans are just starting to hear it. And I think no one knows exactly what it is. They know it has something to do with race, and it's some kind of a theory. Right? How would you describe it? And then we'll ask, how would you describe it? What is critical race theory?
I will admit that I read a lot of critical race theory in law school. So, the work of Derek Bell or Gene Stefancic
This is
and
the
Richard
stuff
Delgado.
no one knows but you and 6 other people.
Right. So,
But what matters is what is it practically? It's being taught in schools or some form of.
yes, there's a certain sort of crystallized version of it that is a lot less complex than what critical race theory actually is. But critical race theory essentially argues that racism is baked into all the systems of American society,
Yeah.
and that any sort of neutral system is in fact a guise for racial power.
Yeah.
And so the argument is made by Derek Bell, for example, that Brown versus Board of Education, this is an argument he made in 1991, that Brown versus Board of Education was actually a way for the white community to leverage its own power. It wasn't an attempt to end segregation in public schools. Even things that are purportedly good in terms of race, so long as they uphold these broader systems, things like capitalism or things like the meritocracy, these things are actually just guises for power. And so what that boils down to in sort of practical terms is all disparity equals discrimination. If you can see any stat where black people are underperforming white people, this means the system was set up for the benefit of white people, and that white people have a duty to tear down these systems in order to alleviate the racism that's implicit in those systems. When it comes to schools, what this tends to boil down to is kids who are white have experienced privilege because the system was built for white people, and we have to change the standards.
Right. Now, okay, well, so Malcolm, you tell me your definition.
Oh, I agree with everything he just said.
Oh.
Exactly. Wow, Ben actually gave a great description of critical race theory. So this makes me think. So he actually knows these things. He's deliberately doing misinformation and trying to make it seem like it's something it's not. Because he just perfectly described what critical race theory is. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that he knows about other issues, but he deliberately does spread misinformation because he's paid to. Maybe he's not stupid. He's just an evil genius, like an evil smart guy, not a stupid evil guy. Huh. That was actually a great description. I'm sorry, I'm in a little bit of shock here. I did not expect that from Ben Shapiro. Please keep surprising me, Shapiro. Don't go back to being Shapiro. Maybe he's changing. But I highly doubt it. I've seen some other crazy videos on his channel recently. Let's keep going.
Right.
And I appreciate you being honest in defining of what it's like to be black American. Right? That is, I mean, we're talking about a system.
That's not fair. You're
Well,
saying we can't.
no, I'm just saying I agree with all of those suppositions because they are grounded in truth. Look, and the funny thing is, it's not just
Okay, can you stop clapping, please? It's kind of annoying. Let
It's
them talk.
also the Scalp Act of 1749, where for 300 modern dollars, you had to cut off the head or the hair of an Indian to prove that you got them out of the way so they could settle. That's a little bit of American history that people should know about. The Chinese Exclusion Acts of the 1840. These are things we don't talk about.
And that's not, I mean, first of all, it's not true that people don't talk about these things. We all did learn about...
You don't want them talked about?
No, that's not true either.
You want to canceled
No,
them?
Malcolm, I'm sorry, you're lying. That's
not
lying.
true.
That's just
not
that it is lying. I not only have
not
I've personally
I
talked about
agree.
many of the things that you just mentioned. I define critical race theory by citing the actual authors of critical race theory, and you seem to be a pretty good beneficiary of the meritocracy because you have merit, Malcolm. So if you're going to criticize the meritocracy...
Oh, okay, no. You can't make this argument. Oh, a black person is successful, thus there's no more racism, thus a meritocracy exists. No. There can be exceptions that do succeed, but in general, like, the system is built against minorities, and especially African Americans in America, right? There's more hurdles that you have to jump. Like, think of it as a race. Like, there's a white person, there's a black person. The white person just gets to run the track, but the black person not only has to run, but also has hurdles where that black person has to kind of jump over, while the white person can just run. Who do you think is going to win that race? Even if they start off equally, which they don't. Let's just say they do. Financially, stable parents, blah, 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 whatever. Good parents. Both of them have good parents. They both take off. But the black person still has hurdles that are systemically based that they have to leap over, right? While the white person can just run. And other minorities have hurdles, but smaller ones that they have to jump onto. But African Americans especially have hurdles that they have to leap over in order to make it in society. So that's not a great argument there, Ben. You know, exceptions don't prove the rule always. So, yeah, if... like, that's not really a great argument. I think that's a pretty bad argument. Because there have been black people successful even during the 60s and during the civil rights era. So would you, like say that, oh, well, there's no racism then? Like, if you had a lot of black singers like Aretha Franklin and stuff, they were successful during the time period, but there was a hell of a lot of racism back then. And you know, the civil rights movement was at its peak during the time. So would you say that there was no racism because Aretha Franklin and a few other really successful black singers were successful? No, you wouldn't. So it's not a great argument. It's a bad argument.
Meritocracy as an outgrowth of white supremacy, then you're going to have to tear down the system that you've succeeded in because you have merit, or do not have merit.
You know, when my great-great-grandfather ran away from slavery to join the 111th U.S. Colored Troops and fight against the South, keeping human beings as slaves, he didn't think, you know what? In 150 years, my great-great-grandson's going to have to sit on stage and argue with a guy who thinks all that's bullshit. All right? I'm just saying, Malcolm, there is no controversy. The controversy that's made up is people saying that this is being...
I don't think Ben Shapiro would say that the fight against slavery was bullshit. I can't believe I'm defending Ben here, but like, I don't know if that was the greatest example, Malcolm. I think there could have been a better example than that, but I get what he's trying to say, which is that the laws that have been passed on CRT aren't really about CRT. They're more about banning the history of racism being taught, like in Texas and Florida, especially Texas. You know what I mean? So I get what he's saying, but I think he could have worded it better and used a better example, in my opinion.
This is being taught in schools, and that kids should be kept away from it.
That's not true.
It's not even a real controversy.
Malcolm, the fifth largest school district in America, Clark County, just decided that they were going to lower standards with regard to testing because they wanted to alleviate disparities in outcomes. That is an outgrowth of critical race theory.
Can you draw?
How's that an outgrowth of critical race theory? And the reason I'm exiting full screen is because I want to search that, the Clark County thing. School. What is it? Clark County School grading. Clark County School forms despite some pushback. Okay. Goodbye to the dreaded series. There was a report Thursday evening by the Clark County School Board said 50% as the minimum grade, doing away with the 100-point scale. Also proposed concept of reassessment, allowing students to retake tests to better reflect what they have learned. Bans behavior, attendance, late assignments, or participation from being reflected into the student's grade. This is... But he said they'd lowered the... What did he say again? Let me go here again.
District in America, Clark County, just decided that they were going to lower standards with regard to testing because they wanted to alleviate disparities in outcomes. That is an outgrowth of critical...
That's complete BS. He just lied. I'm not watching Fox News, but Clark County is... retake tests, redo assignments. Minimum grade would be 50%, not 0. Students could turn in assignments late without penalizing their grade. Notice any time when they go to college will do them a disservice. Older grades that sometimes take a lot longer. My sister's actually a high school English student. Graded the paper takes her a long ton of time. It's going to put a huge extra burden on teachers. It's not going to have a long-term benefits. Some due date, turn it in. Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids, I think this is a great thing because people who have ADHD or other learning disabilities can now maybe hand in the assignment late or retake a test. You know, this is good. I think school should be about learning. It shouldn't be about punishing people just because they messed up on one test. I think they should be able to have a second chance. Because it's about teaching them. Because if you can pass the test the second chance time around, you've learned. Because the whole point of test is to test whether you've learned. So if you mess it up the first time, it shouldn't be the only time you can ever do it. You should be able to, okay, I messed up, can I try again? You should get a second chance at least. I don't think this is bad. I think this is a great idea. And, again, I'm not an expert on education, but I think this is a great idea. But Ben Shapiro just lied. He said that they lowered it to have more equity, like more equality, right? But that wasn't. It was for more to do with ADHD and other people with learning disabilities, like for example, like dyslexia or something. You know, something like that. I don't know. But why the heck? A 90 to 100. So I'm glad that the lowest is a 50 now. That you will pass anyways. Oh, that's good. Impact on non-academic factors. For example, coming from a broken home or coming from, you know, where you have a learning disability or both. Like, you know, things like that, right? I think that's really good. It's looking out for those kids because those kids have a far less chance of scoring well if they have a learning disability and or in terms of or they have a home situation which is toxic, like they have a bad parents or maybe there's drugs going on. You don't know what's going on, so it's to help these kids, and I think that's great. But this is not the point of the video. The problem is Bennett just lied. Let me replay this again.
Controversy that is being taught and should be
That's a district in America. True,
it's not even a real controversy.
Malcolm, the fifth largest school district in America, Clark County, just decided that they were going to lower standards with regard to testing because they wanted to alleviate disparities in outcomes. That is an outgrowth of critical race.
Complete lie. They don't want to eliminate disparities. Yeah, they want to, but it's not because of race. Maybe it's because of race in the terms of the outside circumstances affecting the person's the student's performance in the school. They want to eliminate that, but they're not trying to make it where they're lowering the standards. I mean, that's a lie, Ben. They're just trying to make it where the outside circumstances don't affect the students as much as inside, and it's nothing to do with critical race theory either. It's completely based on academics, like in terms of outside race. They didn't even mention race. They just talked about learning disabilities. So again, he's lying here. Yeah, it's true that they are changing their grading system to make sure that everyone can pass, but they're not lowering the standards. They're just simply like lowering the bottom to make it 50. Like you still can score 90s and 100s, and that's still valued pretty high. It's just everyone can pass now, so that it helps people with learning disabilities in bad home situations. So they didn't even bring up race. Critical race theory wasn't even mentioned in anything I just read right now. It was all about learning disabilities and things. Y'all can check it out in depth, but this is a lie. He's connecting two things that have nothing to do with each other.
Theory.
Can you draw a straight line to it?
Yes.
Really?
100%. Because when you say that the meritocracy is an outgrowth of white supremacy, and then you suggest that I'm somehow denying that slavery took place or that your great-great-great-grandfather was a hero because I'm saying that I want people tested when they are in school to see if they are good at school, then what you're purporting to push now is just nonsense. And it's just sheer bullshit, Malcolm. It's just bullshit.
No, but I think it's also a leap to say that he thought that was bullshit. I mean, because that's not what it is. I mean, are we talking about 2021? Or are we talking about 1861? Because
the point is, can we talk about 1861 and 2021?
Yes, we can. And
You just did.
I don't know who's against talking about history.
Well, I mean, I understand that they want to, in Texas, they're talking about removing references to the Ku Klux Klan. They're talking about removing. Well, I mean, come on.
That's Texas.
I mean, how can you watch Forrest Gump without even knowing?
Oh, Bill Maher, that's not a great argument. It's Texas. We can't just accept insanity. Because once we start accepting insanity, it becomes the norm in that, let's say, for example, Texas. We have to say, no excuses. You can't just say it's Texas. What? Come on, bruh.
Bedford Forest is, right? I mean, these are people who are historical figures who did bad things. No one is actually saying we want to go back and erase everything and restart and talk to you about these things. Critical race theory is a subject because the Republican right has made it a subject. No real school organizations are mandating this for kids.
I hope every Democrat in America takes your perspective, and they will be shellacked at the polls. Roy Teixeira just wrote a piece, the emerging Democrat majority, Roy Teixeira, he just wrote a piece about what he called the Fox News fallacy, a tendency of people on the left to believe that just because Fox News mentions something, it can't be real. The reality is, a lot of this stuff...
I mean, Fox News does do a lot of BS, Ben, so I don't blame them for having that.
...is taught in schools.
You mean like viruses?
Well, okay.
Well,
Can I...
Wait, what did he
Like
say?
viruses?
Something, it can't be real. The reality is, a lot of this stuff is taught in schools.
You mean like viruses?
Oh, God, I'm slow. I just got it because Fox News downplayed and denied COVID's effects, and they basically lied about COVID. Yeah, Tucker Carlson was doing a lot of anti-vaccine propaganda as well, which was complete BS. Okay, I just got what he said. Wow, I'm slow.
Okay.
Well,
Can I...
now I'm just...
I don't know.
Now I'm just... confused.
Can I just,
what you're
as
talking
far
about.
as what people are experiencing in their lives, in their schools.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. There are states, like from the old Confederacy, I think, who do want to airbrush history. That's not, I think, the majority in this country. If you ask me critical race theory, if you say, does that mean teach history unvarnished? I would say yes, then I'm totally for critical race theory. If you say, does it mean acknowledging that racism persists today? I would say yes, teach that.
Based Bill?
Should we have remedial means? That's like affirmative action. There's lots of people who are against that. I'm still for that. I still think when you're...
Okay, Bill, based Bill.
And I have some of them here. Blacks earn 40% less. 90% less family wealth. High poverty high schools. 72% blacks to 31% white. Live 6 years shorter. Half as likely to go to college. 8 times more incarcerated. These are real statistics. The question is, what do we do to address them? These are real statistics. You think we should address them? You think we should address them, right? The question is, what are we doing about it? Because if critical race theory means making children in school fixate on race, I'm not for that. If it's about collective guilt, I didn't do anything to your great-great-great-grandfather. I don't want to be responsible for that. If it's about, a toxicity of just from being born white, if it's about dividing everybody into oppressor and oppressive, oppressed and oppressor, I'm not for that. So there are things that are being taught and are going around that I'm not for, that if that was critical race theory, I wouldn't be for.
I agree with you, and I don't think that's critical race theory.
But it's being...
I think what's happened here...
Yeah.
I think that what's happened here...
No Scotsman fallacy. He said no Scotsman fallacy. Let me see the actual definition of a no Scotsman fallacy. No Scotsman fallacy. No Scotsman fallacy. No true Scotsman of pure purity is an informal fallacy in which one attempts to protect the universal generalization from a falsifying counterexample by excluding the counterexample improperly. Okay, give me an example. Angus, no Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge, but my uncle's a Scotsman and he puts sugar on his porridge, but no true Scotsman puts sugar on his porridge. Oh, okay, so it's like... Okay, so so you defend your freaking generalization of a group by excluding any counterexamples, anything that goes against that, by saying it's not pure enough or it's not true, or... Okay, so that's what it is. I mean, is this a no true Scotsman fallacy? I don't think it's a new Scotsman fallacy, because no one's ever claimed that those people were critical race theorists. They're not. They're just racists. That's not critical race theory. It literally isn't in the definition of critical race theory. It's not part of the what do you call it? The theory at all. So that is not a new
This terminology, sort of like defund the police, has been hijacked and been framed around the left as that they want to do all this, they want to rip down the entire social fabric of America, and they want us to be guilty about everything. I want you to teach history. I had a lot of people in the military, hold on, I had a lot of people in the military, senior officers who had to make life and death decisions, who were total morons about the cultures and institutions and countries we were going into, and people died because of that.
Question.
I don't need that here.
If we agree that history should be taught, why are you defending critical race theory, which is not history?
Did I not just say a moment ago that I think that term has been hijacked and that's not what we're talking about?
Okay, so let's say critical race theory.
Critical race theory is literally analyzing history and giving the true light of Americans' history and race. And maybe more than America. But specifically, let's talk about America. It's about the racist history of America and that systemic racism exists and the meritocracy is an illusion. That's history. I'm sorry, those are true. That's why he's defending it, and he's defending the original definition of critical race theory, which that Ben made. He's not defending the crazy people saying all white people are bad and white people are toxic and white people are evil. No, he's not defending that at all. He's defending the original definition that Ben Shapiro himself laid out in the beginning of the video. So, I mean, it's history.
I'm going to go back and repeat that I didn't say that.
Okay. You are literally defending critical race theory by redefining it as just teaching history, which is a cheap semantic trick, and you know it.
Is this what you do on your show? Because it sucks.
Oh, man. Look at that face. Ben is triggered. I mean, he didn't redefine it as just history. He said it is history. And he agreed with the original definition, and he didn't redefine it. He said, I want you to teach history. And his point is that right-wingers are trying to use critical race theory as a way of censoring history. That's it.
You know, Malcolm, I appreciate that, but I will comfort myself tonight by sleeping on my bed made of money.
I'm sure we have an adult. I'm sure we have an.
Oh my God, Ben! You get mad at rappers when they start talking about all these things, but you just pulled up a. Ben's crazy. This is funny. Ben is so triggered off that I could tell. Like, you saw his face.
I'm sure we have another adult subject to talk about.
Well, how about that Andrew Cuomo? He's.
Okay, that's enough. Come on, video pause. Okay. So my final thoughts are that I think Malcolm could have probably maybe put across his thoughts better. You know, you kind of had to connect them with yourself. Like, I think Ben was saying that critical race theory is he defined critical race theory in a pretty good manner in the beginning, and Malcolm agreed with that. And Malcolm's point was that Republicans and right-wingers are using critical race theory as a way of censoring history in general, like of America, of the bad parts of the American history, such as the racism, right? They're trying to get rid of that. Making, you can't make references to the Ku Klux Klan, trying to get rid of MLK quotes, bunch of other things as well. They also want to ban things like saying that America was based on slavery, like it was founded on slavery. They don't want to make any references like that to America's very dark and racist history. Like, if you read what the critical race law bans are, it's really not banning critical race theory, it's banning history while using critical race theory as an excuse to ban history. Now, let us look at the definition of critical race theory, and this will only prove my point and the point that you know, Vosh has made in the past and other lefties. So critical, oh, I'll switch the camera angle. Critical race theory definition. I've searched this before, I think, for another video. I don't remember. Okay, so Britannica, which is a pretty very, very respected sort of definition thingy, right? So, critical race theory, intellectual movement and a loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not natural, biologically grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings, but a socially constructed, culturally invented category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color. Critical race theorists hold that law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economical, political inequalities between whites and non-whites, especially African Americans. There you go. That's the definition. Where does it say in this that white people are all evil? Where does it say that what's another thing that they said? That you should have collective guilt and, you know, you're bad and white people are evil. Where does it say that? It doesn't say that anyway. It's just saying it's an analysis and a theory that race is socially constructed and the laws of the U.S. country, the country of the U.S., are against people of color, especially African Americans. That's all it is. That's literally what critical race theory is. Now, obviously, Republicans and right-wingers don't like that because that means that the country that they continuously praise is not actually so great as they like to portray it as. That it has a dark history and it still has bad things going on right now, right? But they don't want that. So they're using critical race theory as a way of trying to edit history, as a way of trying to ban history, saying that you can't say America was founded on a history of racism. You can't say that America is a racist country. You can't say any of those things in school anymore. You can't make references to the Ku Klux Klan. I think they even try to get rid of a few MLK quotes and things like that in certain schools in Texas and Florida. Like, they're doing a lot of things that have nothing to do with critical race theory and everything to do with the history of the racist history of America. So they're basically using this as an excuse to edit history. That's all it is. And that's what Malcolm's point was. And Ben got triggered, got mad, and didn't make any sense to me, really. Yeah, I think he was just attacking a straw man argument of critical race theory. Like, he made a good definition of critical race theory and then proceeds to create a straw man of it and attacks it and says Malcolm's defending the straw man when Malcolm was defending the original. Simple. That's all it really is. I have nothing more to say. I think I've said everything I needed to say. That's about it. Damn, Ben is stupid. No, Ben knows critical race theory, but he's deliberately doing misinformation and straw man arguments to get it, you know, to ban history, the racist history of America. Anyways, that's all I have to say for this video. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. Hit the bell button so you know when I'm going to post. See you all in the next video, which will be soon.